Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. The battle for the Falklands is over. The battle for Beirut is not. And a tank battle today reportedly broke the ceasefire between Israel and Syria. A full look at the Middle East war later. In the Falklands, Argentina is trying to put the best face on surrender and defeat. Britain celebrates victory. Tom Fenton reports from London.
I just heard that the white flag is flying over Stanley. Is that all right?
A white flag flying over Stanley, and a few hours later, the British commander holding a surrender document from the Argentines at a racetrack in the town. These events were the culmination of a three-day blitz carried out by British troops with courage and precision. Here's how they did it. Friday night, British infantrymen who had marched all the way from Port San Carlos split into three groups and advanced silently on Mount Longdon, Two Sisters, and Mount Harriet. After fierce fighting, all three objectives were taken by dawn. There were heavy Argentine casualties and 1,800 prisoners. Saturday and Sunday, British troops bombarded and probed the enemy front lines. Sunday night, the British seized Wireless Ridge and attacked Tumbledown Mountain and sent the Gurkhas up Mount William. By mid-morning, the Argentines were fleeing Mount William and Sapper Hill, hotly pursued by British commandos and paratroopers. It was at this point that the Argentines began throwing down their weapons, and the British commander ordered a ceasefire. One of the first of the British to enter the liberated town was correspondent Max Hastings.
I started to walk down the main street past Falklanders who were all standing outside their houses and all shouted and talked. And the first person I ran into was the Catholic priest, Monsignor Spraggan, who said, "By God, it's marvellous to see you." I walked on, and there were hundreds, maybe thousands of Argentinian troops milling around, marching in columns through the street, some of them clutching very badly wounded men, and looking completely an army in defeat.
Today, a triumphant Prime Minister Thatcher said in the House of Commons, "Never again."
I hope that we have restored once again the dominance of Britain and let every nation know where is British sovereign territory, it will be well and truly defended, and we shall never again be the victim of aggression.
One of the biggest surprises for the British was the large number of prisoners. They found 11,000 Argentine soldiers in the town, which meant the British had been outnumbered 2-1. The British now have the urgent problem of caring for a total of 15,000 prisoners who are described as being in very poor condition. The government indicated the officers will be held until the Argentines agree to cease all hostilities in the South Atlantic, including air and sea attacks from the Argentine mainland. In the campaign for the Falklands, the British admit losing 250 men, 9 aircraft, and at least 6 major ships in combat. They believe the Argentines lost close to 800 men, more than 90 aircraft, and at least 2 major ships. In the campaign to retake the Falklands, the British will have captured in all some 16,000 prisoners. The Argentines won. Behind the numbers were the faces of men and the faceless barren land over which they fought. Tom Fenton, CBS News, London.
As word of the Argentine defeat leaked out in Buenos Aires, thousands of demonstrators began to gather outside the presidential palace. President Galtieri was scheduled to make a speech trying to explain the Falkland developments. But the demonstrators, as many as 5,000 of them, began screaming, "Traitor, traitor," and this is the end of the military dictatorship. Police moved in with clubs and tear gas. They dispersed the crowd. Some television crew members were knocked to the ground. Earlier in the day, when the crowd was smaller, the question was the same. Will the junta last? And if so, for how long? Bob Schieffer is in the Argentine capital.
Although they generally numbered no more than 1,000 people at any one time, there were demonstrators around the presidential palace most of the day, and they were looking for someone to blame for the British victory. Many were angry with the ruling military junta and shouted, "Out with the traitors." Increased tension replaced the stunned silence with which most Argentines received the news of the ceasefire yesterday, as what little information Argentina has released about the battle got around. There were arrests throughout the day. The police threatened to use tear gas at one point. Several North American television crews were jostled. A Canadian crew found their car surrounded by demonstrators who kicked and rocked it. An ABC camera team's car was stoned before the crew escaped. The government, too, began its own search for scapegoats. The Navy newspaper Conviction left no doubt where that search centered. In a front-page editorial, it referred to U.S. support for Britain as treachery and said the battle for the islands had been lost because we were beaten by two world superpowers that had to join together to defeat us. Argentina's Foreign Minister Costa Mendes picked up the line, telling reporters the British success was because of U.S. support. Sources with contacts in the Argentine government told CBS News tonight the hunt for a scapegoat underscores the intense political strain being put on the three-member ruling military junta by the battlefield losses. These sources said they considered it only a matter of time until military President Galtieri is forced out. And they said the entire junta may be swept away if additional details about the fighting and what is eventually done with the Argentine soldiers on the island is seen here as a humiliation. If that happens, says one source, the whole country may come unglued, and who knows what kind of government will come out of that. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, Buenos Aires.
CBS News will present a special report on the end of the Falklands War and other developments tonight at 11:30, 10:30 Central Time.
And cut! Print it. With my job, I can't afford to get tense from too much caffeine, so a friend told me something that made good sense.
Ah, got time for a coffee break?
Here he is. He told me about Sanka brand decaffeinated coffee.
I told him Sanka's 100% real coffee.
That is good.
And 97% caffeine-free.
That's even better.
Sanka decaffeinated coffee. Good coffee that makes good sense.
These days, it's excuses, excuses, excuses.
After we make it, it's out of our hands.
Hey, come on, I only sell it.
Hey, I can't fix it. Who sold you this anyway?
But not at a Curtis Mathis Home Entertainment Center. It's the only place our audio and video equipment is sold and serviced. And we back them up with our 4-year limited warranty. So we have to give you service, not excuses.
Curtis Mathis, the most expensive television in America, and worth it.
The ceasefire in Lebanon between Syria and Israel tonight appears on the brink of collapse. State-run Beirut radio says PLO guerrillas trapped in Beirut now are exchanging heavy fire with the Israelis who surround them. Lebanese state television says Syrian and Israeli tanks battled each other today near the Beirut airport. That's the first major breach of last week's Israel-Syria ceasefire agreement. Lebanese television also is warning the people of Beirut that the Israelis might try to storm the city. Ike Pappas is with Israeli troops outside Beirut.
The tense, undeclared truce held through the early afternoon in the southern outskirts of Beirut near the international airport, but it quickly collapsed when PLO gunners, firing Katyusha rockets, opened up on troops moving along the coastal highway heading to reinforce Israeli units that virtually surround the city. The Israelis answered with mortar and artillery fire. Later, some of the 1,000 Syrian troops still in Beirut joined the Palestinians in firing on Israeli positions. It was the first Syrian involvement in the fighting since Friday, when Syria and Israel agreed on a separate ceasefire. As the firing resumed, Israeli Prime Minister Begin left for the United States to seek support for his plan to establish a 25-mile security zone around Israel's northern border, free of PLO guerrillas. Begin said the world would know in a few days what action Israel intends to take against the PLO holdouts in Beirut, whether to wait them out or storm their strongholds. Israeli patrols, meanwhile, continued to uncover thousands of additional weapons in PLO storage areas, many of which were placed in schools and other public buildings. Most of the weapons have come from the Soviet Union and other communist bloc countries by way of Libya. In only 3 days of hunting, some 500 tons of weapons, rockets, ammunition, and anti-tank missiles have been hauled away, along with dozens of Syrian and PLO tanks. In the affected areas, few stores opened today, food supplies dwindled, water had to be brought in from Israel. For the people of southern Lebanon, the ceasefire, broken or not, means little, for the misery in their lives remains the same. Ike Pappas, CBS News, with the Israeli army in southern Lebanon.
The new Middle East war on the surface is between Israel on one side and the PLO and Syria on the other. But as a war of weaponry, it is a surrogate war between weapons stamped made in the U.S. and those stamped made in the USSR. Bill Lynch analyzes the results.
The biggest loser in the Lebanon war may not be Syria or the PLO, but Soviet military technology. Using the latest American weapons, Israel totally dominated the Soviet-armed Syrians. In the air, Israeli F-4s, F-15s, and F-16s, the mainstays of the U.S. Air Force, were far superior to Syria's MiG-21s and 23s. In addition to better planes, more skillful pilots, and smarter missiles, Israel used American-made early warning radar planes to spot Syrian MiGs leaving their bases and steer Israeli pilots to the kill. Modern technology helped Israel knock out Soviet-made air defense missiles in Lebanon and Syria. After pilotless drones drew fire and read Syrian radar frequencies, Israeli attack planes used special radar homing missiles to knock out the SAMs. Much of the Soviet Union's air defense system against American bombers is based on those SAM-6 missiles. Even Israel's homegrown Merkava tanks proved superior to Russian T-72 tanks, 9 of which were destroyed in Lebanon. These are similar to Warsaw Pact tanks facing NATO forces in Europe. Israeli technicians have souped up many U.S. weapons to improve their performance. Dr. Bard O'Neill says some Israeli equipment is even better than the same items used by American forces.
Of course, the Israelis very proudly point to that, and they say that there are many things that we have learned from them and that we could learn from them in terms of improvements on the systems.
American military experts are dependent on Israel for detailed information on how their weapons work in combat and for access to captured Soviet equipment. The Pentagon today announced teams of U.S. experts will spend several months in Israel collecting that data, which officials here feel will vindicate some expensive and much criticized American weapons. Bill Lynch, CBS News, the Pentagon.
The Soviet Union today took the initiative and formally pledged that it would not, quote, be the first to use nuclear weapons. That pledge was made by veteran Soviet Foreign Minister Andrei Gromyko at a special UN session on disarmament. Soviet President Brezhnev has proposed before that both Moscow and Washington make such a pledge. U.S. officials said today's significance is that the Soviet pledge was unilateral and made before a formal international body.
Hello. I like this Remington microscreen rechargeable shaver so much, I bought the company. It shaves as close as a blade, or I'll give you your money back. The first microscreen is so thin it shaves incredibly close. The second even closer. And Remington's American-made. It costs less. Norelco's imported. It costs much more. The Remington microscreen rechargeable shaver shaves as close as a blade, or your money back. And the Lady Remington, the perfect gift, also with a money-back guarantee.
Corn goodness. Long ago, a chosen brave signaled the corn harvest, so essential to my people. Today, corn is essential to Mazola 100% corn oil margarine. Mazola is made from 100% pure corn oil, so Mazola has no cholesterol, naturally. And a flavor that's pure, fresh, and delicious, naturally. Taste the golden goodness of Mazola 100% corn oil margarine.
Mazola, corn goodness. Strange story. Edwin Wilson, former American spy, indicted in 1980 for a host of crimes ranging from illegal arms sales to organizing a school for terrorists, for Libyans. Until now, working above the law and beyond the law in Libya. Part of a group of former American CIA men doing the same. Tonight, he is in custody in an American jail in New York. Robert Shackney has the intriguing story of a fugitive ex-spy duped into coming in from the cold to face the heat.
The U.S. government wants bail of $20 million for Edwin Wilson, now that the ex-CIA agent is in custody after a 2-year international chase. He was lured out of Libya into a trap set by U.S. Marshals. Wilson had been persuaded he could buy land in the Dominican Republic and be safe from extradition, and he traveled there with a false Irish passport under the name Philip McCormick. He did not know that U.S. authorities had asked Dominican officials to refuse him admittance and instead put him on a plane to New York.
He was informed that his documents were insufficient for entry to the Dominican Republic, that he was being returned to New York. He reportedly told the Dominican authorities that he did not have a visa for New York, the United States, and they told him that he didn't have to worry about that and was put on the plane.
Wilson is under indictment for illegally shipping arms and explosives to Libya, for using CIA associates to help him, for organizing a terrorist training school for the Libyans, and for trying to arrange the assassination of a Libyan exile. Wilson's arrest climaxes an investigation that dates back to 1976, and there is more to come. CBS News has been told that federal prosecutors are now actively investigating the help that Wilson allegedly got from two former senior CIA officers, one of them the ex-deputy chief of clandestine operations. There could be additional indictments. Robert Shackney, CBS News, Washington.
An engineer told rescuers today the Amtrak superliner with more than 200 passengers aboard was going 76 miles an hour and was rounding a bend near Emerson, Iowa, and suddenly there was no track in front of him. The San Francisco Zephyr, bound from Chicago for Denver, then hit a wall of water and derailed on tracks washed out by flooding. A young woman was killed, more than 16 people were hospitalized, and a total of 150 were injured. Helicopters rescued the most seriously hurt. Rescuers used boats to evacuate passengers from the train, which rested in water up to 4 feet deep. The Supreme Court ruled today that children of illegal aliens may not be denied a free public education. The vote was 5-4. Fred Graham has more.
School districts in many parts of the country say they're being pinched financially by the growing tide of illegal alien children. But border towns such as Brownsville, Texas, have been the hardest hit. So the Texas legislature tried to deal with the problem by denying state funds to educate the children and by permitting local school districts to bar them from the public schools. Local federal courts stopped Texas from enforcing its law, and today the Supreme Court agreed that the law is unconstitutional, holding for the first time that illegal aliens are entitled to equal protection of the laws. Justice William Brennan said the children were innocent parties brought here illegally by others and likely to stay. He said the state law would save little financially while infecting the nation with a subclass of illiterates within our boundaries. Dissenting Justices Berger, White, Rehnquist, and O'Connor accused the majority of unwarranted judicial action in an effort to make up for Congress's failure to deal with illegal immigration. The governor of Texas expressed concern about the impact on his state.
I don't think there's any question at all that once again we have created a situation here that makes illegal immigration, primarily from Mexico, of course, that's what we're talking about, attractive.
Legal experts say it's too soon to tell if the decision might lead to further rulings entitling illegal aliens to such benefits as free medical care, food stamps, and welfare. Fred Graham, CBS News at the Supreme Court.
Recently, quietly, the Social Security Administration sent letters to people receiving special benefits for the elderly, blind, and disabled. That letter asked them to voluntarily sign a form allowing Social Security to see their IRS records. But the letter also contained a threat. Failure to volunteer could cost them their benefits. Today, a federal judge temporarily removed the threat of a benefit cutoff to those refusing to sign away the privacy of their tax records. The Federal Reserve Board today reported that the nation's industrial production dropped for the 9th time in 10 months during May, down 0.2%. But the report noted that production of durable goods was up, including, quote, a sharp rise in automotive products.
There's your refund. But sometimes you need more than a traveler's check refund. You say you also would like us to help cancel your lost credit cards.
Yeah.
And you'd like a temporary ID.
Right.
And you'd like us to cash a personal check for $200?
Oh, exactly.
Really?
If you want the only traveler's check with 5 services to help protect your vacation, American Express is worth asking for by name.
We should have asked for American Express.
When you get it.
Itchy red skin.
Get Cordaid when you get it.
Darn bug.
Get Cordaid when you get it.
Oh, touch of poison ivy.
Get Cordaid.
Cordaid gently works with your body's natural defenses. It's all you need for the relief of dermatitis and other minor itches and rashes.
When you get it.
Itchy eczema.
Get Cordaid.
Senate Republican leaders are taking no official position in public, but correspondent Phil Jones reports tonight that privately they are saying Labor Secretary Raymond Donovan must either resign or be fired. And Senate Democratic leader Robert Byrd took a middle position in public today that Donovan should take a leave of absence. These public and private reactions following two more disclosures concerning allegations that Donovan consorted with mobsters when he was a private businessman. The first, that the FBI is investigating the killing of a man linked to organized crime, a man who has been questioned in the Donovan case. Second, that the day Senate confirmation hearings for Donovan began, the FBI informed the incoming Reagan White House that Donovan had, quote, close and business ties with known La Cosa Nostra figures, unquote, the FBI. The Falklands fighting, the Middle East fighting. The old adage says the first casualty of war is the truth. That's not quite true. In his commentary tonight, Bill Moyers notes that the first, last, and everything in between casualty of total war is people.
Total war does one thing well. It vanquishes the foe. Mrs. Thatcher did not go to the Falklands half-heartedly, and in the end she left the Argentines only the choice of a massacre or the white flag. The Israelis entered Lebanon to scorch it as a base for the PLO. The late Mendel Rivers, a hawk perched safely in the sanctuary of Congress, would say this is the only way to fight a war. He told President Johnson, "We flatten cities in Germany and Japan. I don't know what's so sacred about Hanoi." There are still people who think the U.S. lost in Vietnam because Mr. Johnson could not bring himself to wage consummate war, and they praise the Israelis for having no such qualms. Mr. Begin intended to deal the Palestinians a punishing blow, prevent Yasser Arafat's guerrillas from returning to South Lebanon and in the shelling of Galilee. Because the PLO had embedded itself in the camps of the innocent, civilian casualties were sure to be high. But war unbounded follows the logic of hornets. Everything in their path is enemy. So Israeli soldiers were themselves stunned at the devastation they wrought. One surveyed the wreckage from atop his tank and said the wrong people had paid a terrible price. This was not such an issue in the Falklands, where the population is so sparse the war was one of men and missiles versus men and missiles. But the Middle East is so entangled, its women and children have long been victims. No doubt the war has improved Israel's security to the north. It may rescue Lebanon from the grip of murderous gangs. The PLO, the Syrians, and perhaps even the Soviets have less room to make trouble, at least for the moment. But precisely because it was total, the war leaves one of the original causes of the crisis unresolved. More Palestinians are homeless than ever. Dispelled by the Israelis and unwanted by the Arabs, they still have nowhere to go. They remain a people displaced and abused, bloodless abstractions and born losers. It is not the Palestinian lot to be consumed by total war, but to survive and endure a fraudulent peace and an indifferent world.
Let's end any confusion about new car coverage. They don't stand up to the tough Americans. Introducing Buyer Protection Plan 5, a 5-year, 50,000-mile virtual free ride over the repairs you fear most. 5-year trip interruption protection, 5-year no-rest-through warranty, loaner car assistance, plus a $500 price reduction on every American Motors Concorde, Spirit, Eagle, and SX4. Buyer Protection Plan 5 plus $500, only from American Motors.
Welcome to Sears Summer Home Appliance Sale. Save on these and many other Sears appliances. Save $100 on this Kenmore microwave oven with electronic touch control and 2-stage memory. The whole meal feature lets you cook up to 3 foods at once. Pay just $74.95 for this Kenmore upright vacuum with beater bar brush and dual edge clean. Don't miss the savings right now at Sears. For great home appliance values, you can count on Sears.
Congratulations on a second first for Englishwoman Leslie Brown. Mrs. Brown, mother of the world's first test tube baby, had her second last night. Another daughter, Natalie Jane. She became the first woman in the world to have 2 successful test tube pregnancies. Mrs. Brown's first child, Louise, will be 4 years old next month. The nation's big 3 automakers today reported sales for the first 10 days of June were up slightly from the same period last year. But the brightest news from Detroit may be that yesterday's relic now looks like the car of tomorrow. Lim Tucker tells why.
It's style and it's classy and it's different.
It for Helene Najduk is this, a brand new convertible. The convertible was always much more than just a car. Always represented wanderlust within us all. And remember watching the glamorous come and go, wishing you were they?
Young people in love are never hungry.
Remember when it dawned on you that it was really the convertible you envied.
Kind of in love with convertibles. Had one when I was, my very first car was an old Dodge convertible, old bomb, and just loved it. And was really upset when they quit making them.
They were the wise old men of Detroit, and once they turned out as many as 500,000 convertibles a year. Then the consumers seemed to want things which went better in hardtops, like air conditioning. By 1976, production ceased altogether, and Detroit said the American romance with convertibles was over. Detroit has discovered it was wrong again.
Our convertible that you see here today is the hottest selling car on the market.
Believe it or not, Chrysler, once almost totaled financially, is leading the way. The company has gone from hoping it could sell several thousand specially built models to a full-scale, overtime production line in St. Louis. The big regret here is that they can only make 20,000 this year. They could sell lots more because the convertibles are now status symbols. Case in point, the very first car off the production line became a birthday present for a famous model. Richard and Zena Green made a pact when they married 19 years ago that they'd never be without a convertible. But then maybe Richard didn't have much of a choice.
When I was dating, I wanted 3 things. I wanted a guy who could dance, had a convertible, and was from Washington. And he had all 3, so it was a natural.
Gee, we're back to the summer and having good times.
Despite the song on her car radio, Helene and all convertible owners know that someday the rain is bound to come. But so what?
Well, a man's got to have a dream.
Lem Tucker, CBS News, Washington.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Tuesday. Until our special report later tonight, Dan Rather in New York, thank you for joining us.
Now pull that loop through that loop.
Yep.
Pull them tight.
Hey, look.
You did it.
One milestone coming up.
There she is, Doctor of Shoelaces.
Let's see.
Polaroid's pictures are little celebrations of life. It's fun to see yourself while you're just being yourself. You miss that with pictures you have to get developed.
Want me to do it again?
Every morning.
Great day to shoot a pack.
The Wine Institute of New England is one of the largest wine tasting schools in the world. Its founder, Robert Valcuse, recently compared 2 California rosés.
For me, the best way to judge wine is side by side. That's how I compare Tilla California Solas and Almaden Mountain Nectar Rosé. I found Tilla California Solas to have better color, better flavor. A great wine to serve with ham or chicken, much better than Almaden.
Taylor California Cellars, a better rosé. Judge for yourself.
Tonight, the weirdest light show on Earth, the greatest light show in space, and a college for babies on Walter Cronkite's Universe tonight.
This is CBS.
House Majority Leader Tommy Burnett pled guilty to some charges so the government would drop more serious charges against him. We'll have that story and more coming up right now on Eyewitness News. Stay with us.
From Television 5, this is Eyewitness News, weather, and sports.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Clark.
I'm Ruth Ann Leach. The fraud trial of House Majority Leader Tommy Burnett ended today before it really began.
In a deal, Burnett admitted